Welcome, loves. I'm Paula. I'm your educator and death walker. This is our monthly question and answer series where we talk honestly, clearly, without any euphemisms. And we talk about death. We talk about death care. We talk about advocating. We talk about medical aid in dying, palliative sedation, hospice. We talk about how to plan it. We talk about the grief that's going to come with it. We talk about the caregiving aspect. Um, we educate as far as much as we can as to help the caregivers so that they are not carrying their entire burden. And the last thing is um, we want to bring back the human experience, the connection, if you will, give the backbone back to the community. And so this is how I can do this through this question and answer series. These are real questions that real people sent me. And my hope in reading these to you and you hearing them being answered out loud, you'll feel more grounded, more informed, and a little less alone. So I'm going to go ahead. I have 10 questions prepared, and we're going to go ahead and start right about now. Question 1. What exactly does a death walker do? A death walker is someone who walks the dying. We walk in the in-between world. There are death walkers, there are death doulas, there are threshold keepers, and I'm sure there are many, many, many more titles for the death care umbrella. And for me, a death walker was part of my culture. It was part of my grams and part of my mom and part of the indigenous people that we lived around and were a part of the community. We lived in a suburb for a little while, and again, very community oriented, very much a backbone. And my grams and my mom were herbalists. They made tinctures. My grams had a way of, I wouldn't call her a medicine woman, but maybe a shaman of some sort. And of course, she was always, always helping people. And so was my mother. We were doing it in our homes. We had in and out people. It was a little bit different. We didn't really have a hospice system per se when I grew up. It was more, again, medical. We had a doctor in the community. We had a couple shaman medicine women. And so they would all gather, and we had a couple nurses that practiced, that was actually their day job. And they would all gather. And so it really was a communal thing. None of my family per se had the home hospice version of what we see in 2026. It just wasn't there. But I'll stop there because that's a whole nother story about me and my family. The other thing is, I'm not here to fix anything. I'm not here to rescue anybody. Or am I spiritually here to bypass whatever the dying wishes or whatever the basic plan is for the dying person? What I am here to do is witness. I'm here to, and when I say witness, I'm here to observe. I am the observer. If any of you do any meditation or anything like that, then you truly do know that there is a observer. When you are doing your meditation, you become the observer. And so I would ask I would ask you to ask the people that you're going to be having them death walk with you if they are able to witness, if they are able to observe. Another thing is to educate, to advocate. And one of the most important things that I think of, I'm there for, is I'm to steady the room, and I'm to help people reclaim their sovereignty, their autonomy, and at the very most important part of their lives is the ending, the last stage performance that they're going to be doing, and it is their threshold. So that's what my job is. My job is to guide and walk and lead the dying person. They are the most important person in the room. And then, of course, I have to mingle and intertwine all of that with the circle and the tribe that the dying person has brought together. Question number 2. How do I know when it's time to call hospice? This is a big one that people ask me. You often call, well, let's be clear. There's a palliative care, and then there's a hospice. And then there's just regular care, palliative care, and then hospice care. And hospice, I believe there's a line for me when I answered this question. It is a long question, so I'm going to try to answer it as simply and as succinctly as I can. You call the hospice when the focus shifts from cure to comfort. Now, cure is when you are still in the active phase of going to your doctors and they're giving you trials and you're using new medications and stuff like that. And you want to keep trying to cure. When you get into palliative care, you realize at that point that you're not interested in the cures. You're not interested in any more trials. You're not interested in any more pacemakers or anything. You're not looking to cure. And I'm going to use congestive heart failure here is just a thing. You're not looking to cure it or to continue to add to it with, like I said, study trials, more medications, maybe surgeries. You've decided to opt out of that. And so now you're in palliative care. And that's where palliative care first steps in, is the comfort. And you have a palliative team. It has a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, etc. And then for me, I don't believe a person should be placed into hospice at the very, very, very end of their life. If you are in palliative care and you are comforting, and then there is a crossover where they have reached the point of hospice, perhaps they have mentioned that they no longer want to have the palliative. When you're in palliative care, you're still taking your medicines. You're still taking, and they're giving you things for your anxiety and stuff like that. So you're still actively participating in the day-to-day wellness of yourself, even though you're not opting for cures or anything like that. Then when you have decided that you no longer want to do that, you're just ready to actively go into hospice, then that is the difference. The daily meds that you would take, the heart medicines, and if you're taking any uh, cholesterol or anything like that, all those stop when you go into hospice. And hospice then becomes truly a comfort care at that particular juncture. You don't call the hospice when someone is at the very, very end, like I said. And most families, they wait too long. Most palliative care and hospice teams do not stay in contact with the families, in my opinion, and do not properly educate and explain the way that I have, in a very short time, explained it. Most people too, they think that when their people go into hospice, it means that they're giving up. It doesn't mean that they're giving up. It means they want to choose quality and presence and comfort over any medical escalation, including taking out the pill box and swallowing a bunch of pills that they've been doing for probably the last 40 years of their life, give or take. Question number 3.